Okay, guys, if you watch some of the other YouTubers, you're seeing that everyone is concerned about this hobby. For one reason or another, prices crashing, people aging, there's all sorts of stuff. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about these topics and why I think it's a lot to do about nothing. See you in a minute. Hi, guys. Welcome to another Comic Talk. And today I want to talk about a few topics, all of them around, what's going on with this hobby. I watch a lot of YouTubers, and as I watch them, I've seen an enormous amount of controversy going on between people talking about whether we have drama driving this hobby, especially on YouTube. Or should people be collecting comics that are only interested in price? And look, the honest truth is, I've been doing this for, or at least my truth, I've been doing this for close to, I want to say 50 some years now. And it has changed, right? When I started, there was price, but for example, you could get like a Spider-Man one for $35. It wasn't crazy pricing, but there was a value to the older comics. Normally they came unbagged. I mean, they always came unbagged. Sometimes the people you would buy it from would actually write the price on the cover. I mean, there was a company that I used to frequent, a store that was really more of a coins and stamps, and then they had comics in the back room. The guy would take a wax pen and literally write the price he wanted on the cover of the comics, which told you two things. One is he didn't think the condition was actually a big deal. And we did, but it really wasn't the end of the world for us. It was more about having that issue that we never saw before. And it was driven largely because inside Marvel, references were made to prior issues. So you always wanted to go back and read those because there was no internet, there was no digital copies. So if you really, there were no omnibuses. So if you really wanted to know what happened in Fantastic Four 23, you had to go find Fantastic Four 23, buy Fantastic Four 23 so that you could read it. And that's really what started, in my opinion, the race to go backwards to older vintage comics was just to really complete the understanding of what had happened before and that was being now narrated in the new comics. So yeah, I think that was the original way this hobby started. Um, and even in the 50s and 40s, when I was growing up, we considered those to be really crude comic books. We didn't like the art. We thought it was not as good as the new art. We thought, for example, John Romita, Steve Ditko were superior to the 1940s Captain Marvels, the 1940s Timely's, any of them. The Supermans. We hated the 50s because they were so, especially the superhero ones, they were so childish. So we were appreciating that Marvel had brought in a stronger, more mature sense to the comic story, and the better artwork. So to be honest, there's been a huge change in the industry since that time. And at that time, we did collect for the love of comics. For example, I remember thinking, I don't ever want to sell my comic books. I never want to get rid of my comics. I enjoyed sitting in a room, putting them in the stacks, going through them, repeatedly going through them. I enjoyed spending my summers when I was a kid, reading entire runs. And some of my fondest memories are discovering runs during that summertime. that kept me entertained when there was no television, I mean, not television of any significance. We'd had maybe three or four channels, and they played nothing that kids were really interested in during the week. Only on Saturday mornings were there cartoons and things that kids were interested in. So the rest of the time, TV was pretty boring. Um, so I mean that's basically the way the hobby started, and I think around 1970, early 70s, 71, 72, the conventions really started taking off. And I'm going through this to give people some sense of how we got here, right? And the price guide was published. And I think the price guide did a couple of things. One, it validated that these things were not trash. In our parents' eyes, it was always that we had these stupid comic books that were taking up a lot of space, and they were childish, and eventually you'd get rid of them. And when you went off to college, many mothers went into the back rooms and threw away their kids' collections. Then the price guide came out, and the price guide identified that there was a value here. But again, it was hard to sell comics because there was no place you could find other comic book buyers. You did not have an internet eBay that you could post your comics in and sell them. So your alternative was to go to the LCS. And to be honest, the LCS offered pennies on the dollar. Like I sold an entire run of X-Men, number 1 through 100. I think it was 100, maybe 90, because it wasn't before the new X-Men came out. And when I sold it, I sold the entire thing for $100. I sold the Spider-Man number 1 at what I thought was a ridiculous price of $500. It was very difficult. Periodically, you'd go to a convention and you'd run into someone that you may want to trade comic books with, but the concept of selling your own comics was pretty foreign for us at the time. Then as the 70s rolled in with the price guide and conventions really took off, it became a little more apparent that the value of these comics was growing, right? And that's when people started thinking about Golden Age, because Golden Age was making a resurgence. I read an article, I think it was Hugh Hefner, that had bought the founder of Playboy magazine, that had bought Superman number 1 for $50,000. And that made the news. I mean, it was huge that somebody would spend $50,000 on a comic book. And I think that was the tipping point in the industry where all of a sudden adults started looking at these things as some crazy oddball investment vehicle. Not something common or that anybody would really want to invest in, because the thought of selling it for 50,000 was maybe Hugh Hefner bought it, but who else would? So I mean that's how we got to basically the modern age, which starts around the 80s, or the Bronze Age. Um, I call it modern age because to me those are all modern books, all the way to today. But the Bronze Age, which at that point we started inching our way towards better communications. The internet started. There were things called oh gosh, there were chat rooms, but I forgot their name now. You dial them up and you get in there and you'd be able to find people that had some common interests. And there were some very early comic book forums that got created in those. They weren't called chat rooms. I can't remember the name now. But anyway, having said that, and that the selling of comics really took off when the internet became what it is today. The advent of eBay, it changed everything. For the first time, collectors that were isolated could find comics that they were looking for, and those that wanted to sell their collections could find a market. So, is there a problem with selling comic books? I think it's a natural evolution. I mean, I've been looking at some channels and they're talking about, do you sell comics? Do you not sell comics? Guys, this is a hobby. Just like coins, just like stamps, People buy it, people love it, but people sell it. There's nothing wrong with buying or selling comic books. Selling comic books is part of the entertainment and of this pastime. This is a pastime. This is not a religion. This is not some sort of like I said, this is not some sort of religion where you have to have a certain dogma. This is a hobby and a pastime. This is for you to enjoy any way you enjoy it. If you like the fact that you can sell your comics and get some money for them, then do so. There's nothing wrong with it. I do it. I'm now at an age where I'm beginning to think, what am I going to do with all these comics I have? And I am starting to sell a lot of them. I am keeping basically those that you see right here, like these Golden Age, Shock Suspense. I love EC, so I'm keeping those. I will eventually even sell those. And periodically you may see me drop a Golden Age comic here and there because I'm not interested in it. So, I mean, do I still read comics? To be honest with you, vintage ones, periodically I'll open them and page through them because they're nostalgic and they take me back to my youth. But I do not read modern comics at all. And if I want to read a comic, I get an omnibus and I'd read it that way. But I think modern comics have an incredible value. First of all, they perpetuate the hobby. They introduce new readers into the hobby. They get individuals that were not exposed to comics to find comic books and later find the vintage comics. And that's the normal progression. We all started with modern comics. When I bought my Silver Age comics, they were modern. They were brand new. They were off the newsstand. They weren't Silver Age. There was no such thing. So later on, it became Silver Age when we got older and we remembered those comics from our past, and they existed. There was a time that comic books didn't exist. So before the Golden Age and the Platinum Age, there were no comic books. There were some political comics that were drawn in newspapers, but that was it. So you can't talk about modern without realizing that in its given time, every single age was modern. So therefore, modern age will become a vintage age for someone. And those people will also be interested in silver, in bronze, in gold. The Platinum Age, I think, is unique, and not many people really care about the Platinum Age. Will the Golden Age go platinum in the sense that people will stop caring? I don't think so, because the characters of the Golden Age have moved forward. The Platinum Age characters did not move forward. If you look back, there was a comic called Yellow Kid that was the big Platinum Age comic. It never moved forward. The culture changed. The interest changed. Superheroes are different. Superheroes are kind of a mythology, similar, and that's why you have Thor, you have Wonder Woman, you have the different Hercules, the different gods, because they are mythology, and they work very well inside comic books. And in the future, the mythology that we're laying ground for are those of Captain America, Iron Man, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, Superman, Batman. All of that is the mythology that's being created today. And thousands of years from now, it's likely that that mythology will continue. And it will become mythology like we think of Hercules. And people will discuss, was there really a Batman? They'll have more, I think they'll have more evidence to the fact that it was entertainment, because we don't have as much evidence from the past. Things were not written down, and there was definitely no movies or videos. But imagine a world where 20,000 years from now somebody discovers a movie or clips of Star Wars. What would they think? Would they think, oh my God, this is like the ancients had this power to go into the stars, and we're lucky that they filmed this piece and create an entire mythology around what the ancient world was? That's possible. And I think that in some cases we do the same when we read cryptic writings of ancient peoples. For all we know, it was their entertainment, and we just don't know. Now, what's the future hold? Look, the population of comic collectors is aging, but I think people misunderstand that the same way they misunderstand what modern comics are, right? I think the aging population is not only a large portion of the comic population, but a large portion of the United States population. There were more baby boomers than any other generation in the U.S. So if you look at your commercials on television, what are they about? They're about medicine, they're about healthcare, they're about retirement, they're about investments. And why is that? Because the majority of people watching TV are in that age group. Same thing is happening with comics. The largest group of comic collectors are from the baby boomer age. So it isn't that there are no new collectors, it's that the largest set of collectors came from that era. And there are more things competing for entertainment today. We have video games. We have we have Magma, however you pronounce it. So whatever it is, there's so many different forms of entertainment that didn't exist in the past. Television was not as, I would say, customizable as it is today. Today you can watch The Wizard of Oz, or you can watch any cartoon you wanted at any given time. There is no limit. In the past, you'd have to wait, and they show it once a year, and everybody would gather around the TV to watch it. Today, that doesn't occur anymore. There are no events unless it's a political debate. Nobody gathers around the TV or the Super Bowl. Nobody gathers around the TV to watch anything. I wanted to make this video because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what collecting is and why we love this hobby. Look, the reality is it's only what you make of it, right? I watch a lot of YouTubers. I was watching, one of the guys I watch is Sticky Goose. I watch Comic Tom. I watch Gem Mint. I watch a lot of journals, a lot of the main investments in comics. I mean, there's a lot that I watch, and they all struggle with the same thing. What's happening to this hobby, and how is this hobby going to move on? Look, guys, my advice is don't worry about the struggle. Worry about your entertainment. If you watch Swaggle House, he does a lot of the financial predictions or the financial modeling of what's happening in the investment side of comics. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I think that's really cool. I watch it for that. I think it brings a lot of insight, and it lets people like myself who are selling my comics understand what I should move at what time, because it's not a good time to always move everything. When a movie's coming out, you want to move things that are involved in that movie because you can get a better price for it. But overall, I don't understand the frustration in this market and the fear in this market, because at the end of the day, if you're afraid that you'll be the last guy holding comics, then you really are in it for the wrong reasons. And I don't mean the wrong reasons, but you're not in it for the love of having comic books, which was something we all had at one time. You're in it for the financial rewards that it brings. And again, nothing wrong with that. But, think about the fact that if you're in it for that, then you may want to time this market a lot different than if you're in it for the love of having the comic books and reading through them. I mean, look, I have thousands of dollars in my comic book collection. I would say 90% of my comic book collection was bought off the shelf, so I don't have a lot to lose if the market dumps on me. But the reality is, I wish it wouldn't. I wish I could sell it. It'd be good for myself and financially rewarding. What I'm getting into now is original art, and I've been growing more into that because I believe that that's a different kind of collectible. That's a one of a kind. I mean, comic books, no matter what you think of them, are literally prints. If you think of prints, the prints you can buy online of photographs, or photographs of artwork, comic books are that. When you get original art, you're getting the actual artwork. You're getting it done by an artist. It's the only one of its kind. So if you're looking to evolve out of comic books because you have a fear that comic books are becoming, or the value of comics will be dropping in the future because the number of people out there that collect it will not be there, I'm telling you right now that, in my opinion, original art will always be collectible in the very same way that art is collectible in any form. So, that's all I wanted to cover today. It's a little longer video than I've been doing recently, but I thought it was important because I keep hearing over and over and over these predictions of of what's happening with this hobby, how people are not a certain way, how they're really not collectors, how they're just sellers. Guys, again, and one last thing. There was a commentary I heard recently about dealers buying from dealers. So what? Dealers can buy from dealers. As long as somebody's making a profit in the sale, who cares? Why are you not sleeping at night for what other people are doing? Worry about yourself. Stop worrying about what other people are doing. It doesn't affect your life. It's like I tell people when they watch sporting events. My favorite team is the Miami Dolphins. When they lose a game, it's all right. You know why? I don't get paid. I don't get paid when they win. I don't get paid when they lose. So, look, it's entertainment. If they lose the game, I'm not happy. If they win the game, I'm happy. But I don't go crazy. And it's the same thing here. If you're looking at people that are selling comic books and just thumbing your nose at them, it's ridiculous. So again, guys, thanks a lot for listening, and I hope to see you soon. Remember to press that like button if you like what you just saw, and follow if you're not following now. Thanks.